Do you want to grow your Airbnb portfolio without the massive upfront costs that come with purchasing properties? I used one simple strategy to grow to 75 plus properties that generate over £4 million in bookings every year. And so in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can follow my step-by-step formula so you can scale your portfolio quickly and easily, even if you're just getting started. And I lay out all these steps in much more detail in my Airbnb Success Blueprint, which you can get via link below. So to start, I'm going to show you where most people get stuck, including me. The problem is that no matter how good at saving you are or how profitable the properties you have currently are, you will always run out of money to buy properties quickly enough to see any real growth. When I got my first property, I made enough money to be able to buy my second property the next year. But with two, I had to stop doing everything myself, and I got help with the cleaning and the linen and all the other bits and pieces. And yeah, I enjoyed the extra money I was making. I bought a house, I left full-time work. My living expenses had just increased. So when I thought about trying to buy another property, I realized it was going to take me years to save up for a deposit. So what did I do? I tried the sexy new thing called rent to rent or Airbnb arbitrage. So I got 3 properties on a guaranteed rent and I got started. How did it go? Well, pretty shit, to be honest. First up, the income from those 3 properties pushed my total income way past the VAT threshold. So I had to pay 20% VAT, not only on them, but on the income from my other 2 that I already owned. I also had high fixed rents, which means in the winter, whenever bookings were low, I was actually losing money, and it was the profit I'd made in the summer that was effectively just paying that. And this is a petty one, but it's a reason nonetheless. But I absolutely hated having to set up and maintain and pay all the utilities for all these extra properties. Something had to change or I was going to go out of business. But slowly figured out a way where I didn't have to pay 20% of that booking revenue to the VAT man. I could get away with paying those guaranteed rents even in those slow periods of winter, and where I didn't have to set up and maintain and pay for all those damn utilities. It didn't really have a name back then, but it does now. It's called property management or co-hosting, and it is the fastest, least risky way to scale your Airbnb portfolio. If you don't know what property management or co-hosting is, let me explain. It's where you or I, as the operator, takes a property from a property owner, now called the client. We manage it for them as an Airbnb. Now, in the eyes of HMRC or the IRS, we are acting as an agent for that property owner, which means all the booking revenue that we generate is not ours. Oh no, it's theirs. We make our money from charging that client a percentage, a commission. So there's 2 things there. The first one, the commission thing, that means we win and lose together. The risk of the property not making any money and us being stuck as the operator with a high guaranteed rent is gone. That risk is much more spread between us and the owner. Secondly, we only pay tax on our commission that we charge. And thirdly, because it's the property owner's property, they have to set up all the utilities and also pay them. We're at over 75 properties now, and I cannot fathom, I cannot imagine in my worst nightmare having over 75 broadbands that I had to deal with when they went down, gas and electrics that I had to keep switching every time the prices change. Just get it off our plate, give it back to the property owner, let us get on with running the actual business of an Airbnb. And it's not just the costs of the utilities that are property owner's liability, it's all the running costs as well. So cleaning, linen, any maintenance issues, basically everything that goes on in that property that is a cost the owner pays. So the benefits for us as the operator are enormous. First up, there's absolutely minimal upfront investment. You don't need to pay anything. If the property's in a bad state and the property owner wants to rent it as Airbnb, well, they're the ones that have to pay for the renovation. This is not arbitrage, so you're not having to pay a guaranteed rent. There really is no liability to us as the operator. It's a huge reduction in the risk. It is spread much more evenly between us. In the rent to rent or the arbitrage model, us as the operator or the rent to renter take on all the liability, all the risk, because if no one books, we still got to pay the rent. With the management model, if no one books, no one makes any money. But likewise, the property owner knows that we're incentivized because if we don't make money, neither do they. And it massively unlocks the capability for growth. So because you don't need tens of thousands of pounds or dollars to buy a property, you can just plug properties in immediately. You don't need to buy them. It's not rent to rent, so you don't need heavy, chunky amounts of cash flow to be able to pay that rent every month to those owners. You don't need a deposit up front. When you're doing rent to rent, you're gonna get a crap property that you're gonna have to spend 10 or 15 or 20K on. None of that happens with a management model. And also, because we're only taking a percentage of the revenue, it sits far far better in those property owners' heads. They don't feel like they're getting shafted, which they do in rent-to-rent deals. So they're literally throwing properties at you. Now, by managing other people's properties, I've grown my portfolio from the 2 that I owned back at the start when I first started managing in 2016 to 2020, we had 45 properties. Now, we all know what happened in 2020 and how it affected the travel market, but since then we've obviously grown back to 75 plus. And we're doing over 18,000 guests a year, £4 million in bookings a year. And honestly, we turn away dozens of properties every month. People are literally saying,
please can you make us loads of money for Airbnb?
But we can afford to be picky. This is not rent to rent. We are phoning a million people every day and just getting no's. It's the other way around now. Us as operators can afford to be so picky with the properties that we bring on, and so we are. Turn away any that you don't think are going to make good money. Next, I'm going to give you the 4-step process that you just need to follow to be able to do this for yourself. Step 1 is you need to find potential management co-hosting opportunities. You need to know where and how to find property owners that want to make money from Airbnb but don't have the time. How do you do that? Well, everywhere there are property networking events. I don't know if you live in a town or in a village or in a city, but there will definitely be property or real estate networking events. If there aren't, there are certainly online places, Facebook pages, Zoom events. You can go on like listings where people are listing their property. You also do your research on the areas that you know are going to be the best for Airbnb. And you can do that via AirDNA, or you can use the research that I have in the blueprint. Because step 2 is you need to pitch your management services to those property owners. If you're just starting out and this is your first client on a management basis, you need to be able to demonstrate and communicate the increased value that you're going to bring to them. But how do you pitch to that first client? Well, if you've been managing your own properties like I did at the start, you'll be able to show these are the review scores I get, these are the numbers that I get, these are the systems that I have. I can do that for you, and I'm only going to take a percentage. But if you're just starting out and you have no experience with Airbnb, or you just don't want to share your numbers, or you're moving into a different area, that's fine. You can still pitch and showcase your expertise and your knowledge to these property owners. It's up to you to educate them because they sort of know about Airbnb money, but they don't really know everything or really anything. So it's up to you to educate yourself, get that blueprint. Clients have used that blueprint to develop a pitch to a property owner and secured properties basically just based on the information that I provide in there. Because a property owner is going to want to know, how do you protect my property and make sure it doesn't get damaged? What sort of money should I be expecting? They're going to have reasonable, but in some cases, if you're not prepared, awkward questions that if you can deliver a good, strong answer, you can almost educate them in the fact that you say, well, this is what we do for that. And yes, a lot of people who haven't got started in Airbnb think of it like this, but this is actually the case. You demonstrate your credibility, you're going to get them over the line. And then step 3 is once you've got those keys, you do a damn good job making loads of money for them and for you. Especially if this is your first client, you have to absolutely smash it out of the park. Like, get the best reviews ever. You will work harder on this first property than on any others that you will ever get, because this one is the key. This one is the first step to unlocking the scale. I have tons of videos on the channel about how to actually run an Airbnb. That's not what this video is about, but honestly, get the blueprint. That is the literal blueprint for success in Airbnb. That is how you're going to set up that first one that you're managing for a property owner and just smash it. Because when you do, then you move on to level 4, and that's leveraging the success you've had with that first one. You're going to use it to draw tons more clients into you. You might feel uncomfortable asking for a testimonial from a client, someone to get on camera or to write an email saying, yeah, Dave was really great, he made me tons of money. You might not even need that, because once you start delivering for that client's going to be like, I need to give this person more properties because they are seriously making me a lot of money. They're also going to be telling all their friends and family in property circles about you and how much you're doing good things for them. So your phone is going to start ringing whether you get a testimonial or not, as long as you're doing the job right. And then it just becomes a numbers game. The more you talk about what you're doing, the more you talk about the money you're making your clients, the more clients are going to come to you. The more you talk about them, the more their network starts to talk about you as well, and more come again. And your growth becomes exponential. But don't go yet, because next I want to show you some common pitfalls and mistakes that people getting started in co-hosting or Airbnb management fall into. Not you. You won't fall into these. The first thing is setting the right fees, so the right percentage, the right number that you charge that client. Now everyone's different. Every management company is different. different. The ballpark figure is between 15% on the low end up to 25% I've heard on the upper end. We charge 24. We're the best at what we do. We've got the experience, the expertise, the team, all the tech. You get what you pay for. That's why you pay us 24%. If you're starting out, you might be thinking, well, I'll just be the cheapest. That'll be a way to get properties on board. But just remember, it is a lot of work. You are running this entire Airbnb as if it is yours. So just be sure that the charge that you make is enough to make it worthwhile. If you want to offer a discount, at least do it for like 3 months or something, just to get a deal over the line, to show a client what you can do, and then it's in the agreement that you move it up to whatever else you decide. Because remember, as you scale, you're gonna need more people, you're gonna need tech, you're gonna need systems. So when you're starting out, that commission that you charge is pure clean profit. But as you grow and you get channel managers, rate pricing softwares, people, VAs, all this sort of stuff, that comes out of your margin. And that brings us on to the next common pitfall. That brings us on to the next common pitfall that I see new hosts, new management companies come up against, and that's not having a clear management agreement or a contract with those clients. Now, you are entering into a proper legal partnership here, and it's probably going to come from the actual client who's like, I want a contract, because they're used to, with tenants, they have a tenancy agreement, so they're going to want something official, and you need something official as well to protect you, because the worst case scenario is the relationship sours, the client says, fuck you, give me my keys back, but you've got a full year's worth of bookings. That is the cataclysmic end of day scenario where there needs to be something in writing about what happens with all those bookings that are already in. So you absolutely need to have clear, professionally written management agreements signed by both you and the client. And again, surprise, surprise, I have one of those in the blueprint which you can use. And the last thing people fall into whenever they're starting to grow this business, this management business, is not accounting for or not being prepared for the amount of operational stress and overwhelm that can come. If you're already managing 1 or 2 Airbnbs, you're probably finding it very manageable. But just remember, if you go to 10, if you go to 20, that's 20 times the work. You need efficient systems and tech and people that are going to help you with that. And I do speak to clients regularly who are drowning, not only in work and stress, but also struggling to deal with all these clients who are effectively other customers. So we've got our guests that we have to speak to with our guest hat on, but then we also have our business owner. You are a client, but you're also a customer hat, and those conversations are very different and they can be tricky to deal with. And if you're feeling like that now, or if you're worried about that, that's one of the things that I love coaching growing Airbnb business owners, particularly management companies, on. I'd love to have a chat. You can click the link below if you want to get some coaching. Now, I know I said at the start of this video that this method was the easiest way to scale a portfolio, and it is, but that does not mean that this business is without its challenges. Any fast growing business is going to experience growing pains, setbacks, and problems just as it grows. Systems are going to crack, people are going to leave. It's hard. And so the next video you need to watch is this one, where I share 15 lessons that I wish someone had taught me back before I started scaling. Maybe it's exactly where you are now. Watch this video next.